experiencing. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session, Reaching Beyond Parameters, the Virtual Event Experience. I'm Gregg, President and CEO of Talley Management Group.
And I'm Derrick Johnson, the Director of Event Strategy and Chief Diversity Officer for TMG.
And we're delighted that you've taken time out of your day to join us. What we've really started here is the first of what we're calling our summer series. Think of it like a concert series in the park in the summertime. You can bring a blanket, you can bring your lunch, you can bring a cocktail, and just sit and join us as we talk about literally what's changing in our lives, both our personal lives and our professional lives. And in association management, there is an area of association management that hasn't been impacted by these changes. So we thought, let's launch a dialogue about those areas and how this is changing some of that, and how do we move through this together. So that's what we're going to be talking about over the course of the next 6 weeks, and we look forward to you joining us along that dialogue and along that journey. But just a little bit about TMG, for those of you that don't know us, we're a 33-year-old association management company. And we've worked for those 33 years and now with over 25 national and international associations, from everything to full service association management to consulting and outsourcing in each of those areas of essential association management, from marketing to event management to strategy to membership, finance, you name it, we provide it. And we also work globally, as most of us have been for a number of years now. So we've got partnerships and joint ventures in Africa and on the Indian subcontinent, and do events literally around the world. So we have, and our team is highly credentialed and has all kinds of experience to be able to bring to these issues and, frankly, the opportunities that we all face together. So with that, Derrick, I'm going to flip it over to you.
All right, so we had a poll out there. Do you believe that large-scale events are going to have some level of digital or virtual attached to it? The majority of folks said yes, definitely, while a few of you aren't sure. So the big part of all of this, I think, moving forward, is going to be the idea that we will not have any type of large-scale events whatsoever without some level of digital or virtual attached to it moving forward. At the foundational level of our future, we will definitely not see anything without a virtual component tied to it. Everything in the world of meetings and events, from your annual meetings to live concerts, will be impacted by what's going on in our current environment. And this will be a requirement for groups, not just from the standpoint of health and safety, but to provide that flexibility for participants to customize their engagement. This global pandemic has magnified our inefficiencies to evolve as communities. And now with the social distancing requirements, not options, but requirements, we're forced to rethink how we do things and why we do them. So as we think of, again, these large-scale events and, again, concerts, annual meetings, I'm going to say something very controversial. I think expos and some of these other elements that we are so used to within the meetings and events world kind of go away or are redesigned. They're rebranded. They evolve into new things because of these now new requirements. The other thing is this directly correlates to the opportunities for virtual experiences within our digitally connected world. The last time this year, or about this time last year, we were purchasing tickets to baseball games, to sporting events, where you could go sit down and enjoy the experience of being in that area live. There are people at home also engaging in those types of experiences, but they were remote. In this setting, we apply this now to our world of meetings and events, and look at what we have the opportunity to do and really expand the depths of our world. And I've used two words right now, virtual and digital. And I don't, currently we use them interchangeably, but I think that they're two distinctly different things. Virtual is the overarching umbrella of the world that is no longer present, that is not physical. Digital is a tool that we use within the virtual world to really communicate and design. So there are digital elements of virtual, but the two words are completely different, two different experiences that you're focusing on and providing options from there.
So I think I equate this, when I think about it, to telemedicine. In that telemedicine, we've been dabbling in it for really the last 15 years. And I don't think that's any different for how we in the event space have been dabbling in the virtual area for almost as long. And yet, what have we lived through in the last 3 months? Telemedicine has gone from kind of a dabbling idea to literally the way most of medicine is being delivered now and will be delivered from here on out. And I see that equating exactly over into the virtual dialogue we're having about events. And then I think about the permanent change, and I do mean permanent change, that we're going to see out of this in the association space about our members and how they want to interact with us and react to us. Our stakeholders, all of our stakeholders are changing. Just to give you an idea, if you go talk to any of your friends in corporate America and ask them about business travel and how they're looking at business travel and how their employers are looking at business travel, it will never be what it was prior to COVID-19, ever. So that has a huge impact on us when you just stop and think about that for a moment. Who's making the decisions to pay the way to come to your events? People that are going to start holding events to a higher standard before they say, you can go to that one, or I want to go to that one and take the time for travel and take the expense for travel. So I think there is a total paradigm shift happening. And the opportunity is to grab that and understand what that means for your organization from a macro standpoint, and then what it means to you in the world of events. So I think that's the opportunity here. Yes, it's scary, but I think that's the opportunity. But Derrick, you've got some more specificity on this.
Yeah, I mean, as a whole, I think the opportunity is to evolve, and there are, within the scale of meetings and events, we've been doing things the same way for a very long time. The in-person experience has maximized our attention. Yet we've kind of left this virtual element over to the side, almost like a stepchild, if you will. And now the two siblings are equal. They are looked at as equivalents and as both opportunities for organizations to not only connect their members, but facilitate education and idea exchange across all channels. And again, that flexibility that now comes within the virtual environment is key to not just engaging our stakeholders in the moment, but also in the future. So I'm gonna move here to this next slide. So the benefits of the virtual experience. And there's some here, curious to know what you all think. So in the chat feature, definitely let's type out some additional ones if they come to mind. But these are just some of the benefits of virtual. I'm going to skip the first one and go down to diversification. Within the diversification, we have the opportunity to expand our reach, the audience, the individuals that we are sending messages to, and to get on board with the goals of our groups, our organizations, and achieve the missions that we have set forth. The customization element.
Derrick, just right there before you go on, that idea about diversification here and the ability to reach other audiences is so critical right now, because when you really think about it, our events were restricted to those who could afford the time and the money or whose bosses let them attend. Now we can actually open this up to a whole new group of audience that didn't have accessibility to our events before. And that's where, in today's world in particular, and the things we're talking about, there's again, huge opportunity to enable a greater level of access to your knowledge and your products and services. And I think that's what's really key about diversification.
Definitely. I mean, and just to expand on that, even as we look at the magnification of the racial injustices within our world and the systemic racism, and we think about what diversity, equity, and inclusion means across all channels, this is an opportunity to really provide that knowledge, that insight, those connections to individuals, like you just said, who may not have had those opportunities in the past. And so if we consciously use this technology in those ways, I think it could be a powerful thing for organizations. The customization piece is another element that is very much a focal point within the virtual environment. We're able to align our partners and our participants in new ways to connect the goals, to connect the outcomes to each other, and manifest that connection in creative environments. Taking that proactive approach to enhance the experiences of the participants through ways of engagement, through means of engagement, provide so much depth within this space, unlike the face-to-face experience where a person comes into a room and you're limited with the things that you can do. Here, within the virtual space, you can take them places, you can show them things that may be a part of different environments. And then monetization element. I mentioned the connection to your partners, but the ROI and the extended content, thinking of your, not just your events as events, but as experiences, and the experiences lasting all year long. Currently, events start on Tuesday and end on a Thursday. They're time bound, they're location bound. Your virtual experiences are flexible, are free. And the ability to leverage these accessibility elements within the scale of your virtual meeting provide additional opportunities to not only provide value to your partners and raise additional funds within your exhibiting and sponsorship areas, but again, provide value back to your stakeholders.
There's so much energy around this monetization right now, Derrick, and no matter where you look in any of our chat rooms, everybody's talking about this. And I think it's under-recognized in terms of the opportunity for more revenue that organizations can gain from really looking at this in a strategic fashion. And I know organizations we're working with right now, we're attracting more attendees, we're making more money with our virtual events than we were in our face-to-face. So this idea that it has to be given away, it can't be done, or we're not going to make as much money, is just not true. Now, that varies by organization and by audience type, so we'd want to get into the specifics, but the fact of the matter is, you can monetize virtual to a much greater degree than you can limited by face-to-face only.
And you mentioned something about giving it away. And I think organizations set a precedence for their stakeholders by giving them something for free. Why would I accept this for free now and then be expected to pay for it later? So as we think about pricing models within this space, it all needs to go back to an overarching event strategy. And we'll talk more about what that means in a few moments. But the connection between overarching where your events are going in the future and what you're trying to achieve in the present all directly correlate and need to fulfill those objectives, not just in the present, but then driving towards the future. The last piece, and this is the part that I am very, very passionate about, is the sustainability element. I truly believe as event professionals, we have the opportunity to change the world. And we are now given that even that power in a different way, in leveraging virtual experiences. We are able to reduce our carbon footprints for our associations and organizations. With that, ultimately, we're then directly relating to our corporate social responsibility elements and in helping global warming. We're reducing waste on sites. We're, again, keeping people from having to travel long distances. The pros of doing this type of an experience with your stakeholders has so much value. Over the scale of, again, diversifying your audience, customizing experiences, the larger ROI for your stakeholders, and then ultimately saving the planet. Those are all huge, huge, huge benefits of the virtual world.
Well, I think the other piece, Derrick, is, you know, again, this area, we're all going to step back and think differently about events going forward. Even our average attendee is going to stop and think about that. And this pause we've had, I think, is going to open up the conversation much greater, to a greater degree, about climate change and about our ability to impact that. And I do think people are going to start taking a closer look. If I attended 15 events last year, I bet I'm not going to attend 15 events in 2021 or 2022. In person, exactly. And then those that I am going to attend in person, I'm probably going to pay closer attention to this issue around sustainability. That am I now is, you know, how am I impacting by picking that event, and what are they doing to make sure that that impact is lessened, because we've all become a little bit more attuned to what it all means and what's all at risk here. So when I look at this from a CEO of any organization, these are some key factors for me to be able to start to say, here's where the opportunity is. Here's why this becomes so important. There's another thing. For how many years now have we been talking about intergenerations in the workplace and 5 generations? And what about that younger generation? Guess how they want to interact with us? And they've been saying it, and we've been slow to react. And this is the opportunity. So it's kind of that shift. If you don't shift now and make this part of your strategy and plan going forward, I think you're going to lose that audience. You're going to lose their interest in interacting with you, because you're not giving them what they want, how they want it, when they want it, and that's how they live their lives. So to kind of ignore that, or to miss this opportunity, I think is to miss that connection. As a CEO, can't afford to do that. Can't afford to let that happen. My competition might do it, and then I'm toast. So I think when I look at these 4 plus what I've seen appear in the chat room, and then think about the generational impact of this, it's now or never, baby.
Yeah. So Gregg, or let me just shout out to the audience. Thank you all again for participating today. As we go through this dialogue, and this should be a dialogue, please submit your questions or your thoughts in the Q&A module and also the chat module. We'll break for them as they come up, but definitely. Yeah,
and we're happy to be challenged. I love a good argument, so let's jump in.
So Gregg, additional thoughts around kind of those 4 areas from the standpoint of, you mentioned some from a CEO's perspective, the generalization or the generation gaps, but any other perspective?
Well, it's the crossover and interaction between all 4 of those, right? And the fact that you can mix and match now and really start to say, okay, we want to zero in on this audience, this particular audience segment, and now we can pull together strands that we weren't able to do before, but because we've captured it virtually, because we have it, we can actually now build better education programs. We can direct people in a better way to content that's of immediate interest to them. So it's that ability to slice and dice out of this and operate on multiple dimensions, right? We can have some of this that's over here on demand. We can have some of this that you sign up for and there's still some live interaction. So again, to be able to play in different mediums with this in a way we have not been able to do before gets us closer to, from a member standpoint, what do you want from me? How do you want it, and when do you want to access it? And I ought to be able to give that to you that way. So the ultimate customization, right? Slice and dice to just what that audience member is looking for, and we can deliver it.
So There's a question here, and this is actually a really good one. You've already started doing free sessions. We've made that mistake. Now, how do we start charging? Um, I like the idea of finding what people want and leveraging it um, in a new way. So for example, you've been having all of these free sessions, but you know that there's a thought leader within your space, someone that is very much a driver for attendance. Create an experience that is slightly different and unique, and then charge for it. Leverage all the history within the free events. You know what people, when people come to the meetings, you know about how attentive they are throughout. Again, you're taking that data and then you're building something that is new and creative, leveraging, again, those thought leaders, I think, within the space. Greg, do you have anything else?
Yeah, so a couple of things. I think tiering it, just to your point, right? How do we tier our education? How do we tier the content that we want to deliver? So we're bouncing it up one level and that becomes paid versus this lower tier is going to be free. So I think you can start to look at it, but that's why strategy becomes so important, and figuring out that strategy for how you go forward to then start to be able to do this. And I think the issue too, I note around lower attendee numbers, well, our point is, if we actually capture that session, capture that content, and are going to make that be available for a year, then that's what the sponsor's getting. The sponsor's getting a year-long opportunity to be tied to that content and be the presenters of that content or have their names attached to it, that's going to be seen by more than just the people that are there in that session then, but for forever after in that. So that's where we're seeing the exposure opportunity for sponsors actually grow in this. And that can be documented in terms of how that's delivered. But I think the tiering is a great idea. I think thinking about interactivity, that you know, if it's static, it's been free. Now we're going to take this to a more interactive opportunity that makes it something different and that you're going to have to pay for. We're using more technology. We're doing more. Ultimately, it's about the value of your content, and creating those value stratifications and figuring out what are people willing to pay for. Or the other is, with your membership, you get X number of hours of free content, and the rest now you kick over and it's going to be pay as you go. So there's lots of ways to kind of migrate from when it's been all free to how do we get revenue from this.
So Greg, you mentioned something earlier about business travel will never be the same. Do you think that's due to COVID? And do you think once we have a vaccine that will change?
Yeah.
Or
no,
is it something that's
yeah.
here
So
for
I think two pieces to that. Number one, there's going to be a long economic tail to COVID no matter what. And that economic tail is going to put pressure on our sponsors and our exhibitors and our attendee organizations. So there's going to be that economic pressure I'm seeing for the next 2 to 3 years. So that's going to exist. Secondly, what I've heard from my corporate contacts is corporations have said, we never knew how to really quantify the value of our spend on business travel and entertainment. Just didn't know how to put a value on that, but it was a big chunk of our expense line. And most organizations, we all know that. We deal with the same thing. What they're now seeing is 4 months without any of that. And what have we been able to do as an organization to keep going? What have we been able to do to interact with our customers? All of a sudden they're finding, oh, wait a minute, we're doing that pretty well. So now we can actually put a quantification on that spend, and we don't need to spend as much to get the same result. That's where I think I'm sensing a permanent change in the business travel space for corporate world, and that's who drives business travel.
Yeah, and I mean, I'll add to that, and I think obviously what COVID has again shown us is that we've been doing a bad job at really truly evolving our industries. It's shown us the opportunities in the spaces in which we can in fact grow and have creative opportunity. Specifically with the meetings and events, it's the virtual world, and providing those opportunities to our stakeholders that are completely different and unique, that allow them the opportunities to then customize the way that they learn, the way that they connect and share knowledge.
So Derrick, practically then, I mean, how do you move from, okay, I hear you, I guess I got to get there and I agree with you, but how do I now start to move? You know, how do I progress down this? How do I know if I'm doing the right stuff? What's the stuff that I need to be focusing on?
Yeah. So again, I think this goes back to um, our overarching event strategy. And I'm going to pop this slide up here for a moment, because I think this really touches on a part of what we're doing with TMG that I think is very valuable to our space. Basically, we've started offering our partners the opportunity for us to audit their events. Within the scale of auditing their events, the first key to the audit, though, is looking at the overarching strategy. Each organization should have an event strategy that directly connects what they're doing to their organization's mission, vision, and objectives. What I found in this space is planners go straight to executing and the objectives of the individual event, and don't really focus on the key elements of, okay, how is this specific experience that I'm planning directly relating to the other experiences of our organization over the course of the year, or over the course of 3 to 5 years? And how is this then allowing us to deliver on the objectives of our organization as a whole? And that piece has been missing. And a lot of us have been, and myself included, have gone straight to, okay, well, where's the venue? What does the meeting design look like? And without that connection, we're just building individualized Lego toys versus creating big villages and communities that we can leverage in the course of the time to build this cohesiveness within the scale of our stakeholders. So that's actually, I think, where you start, is by looking at the overall event strategy or experience strategy within the scale of your events. And then from there, you talk through the experience. The content obviously is key in virtual environments, and must be interesting, must be engaging. The technology obviously is very important, and there's so many tools and resources out there currently. Are you adopting the right technology and tools that directly help you elevate your objectives? Revenue models. Again, there's many ways within the virtual space to generate revenue. The production element. Again, from the beginning of this presentation, you're coming into this space, this environment. A lot of times when you go to presentations, you walk into the room to an empty space, and there's just static. It was important for us to generate music at the beginning because, again, it's not, we don't want you to sit in an empty room. We want you to be energized and excited to join this conversation. The marketing around the event, virtual marketing is completely different than your marketing of in-person experiences. And luckily, within our TMG staff, our marketing director has extensive experience in not only marketing those in-person experiences, but the digital element or virtual elements. And so ensuring that your teams are made up of individuals that are capable and knowledgeable in this space is very, very important, I think, for any organization moving forward.
So the other reality here, yeah, Derrick, is we're going to be planning 3 different types of events going from here forward, right? We may have face-to-face only, still might be small board meetings that are face-to-face only. Clearly, we're going to have some virtual only offerings, and those may be amped up from what we've already been doing or historically been doing or now going to start. And then I think the life that we're all going to be living from here on out is a hybrid experience. And that is where we're doing both. We're planning a live event that is going to have a huge virtual component to it now. So we're actually going to be planning that experience from kind of 3 perspectives. What are the people live going to be experiencing that are there? What are the virtual audience going to be experiencing at every minute that they're plugged in? And then how do those things mesh to kind of create an experience where you actually are feeling that interaction, seeing that interaction, and getting the benefit of that broader audience engaged in a face-to-face event. And I think that's where our time and energy is going to be spent a lot, because that is kind of the tricky part. And that's where we're going to need really good partners to help us design that and then help us deliver that.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. And I mean, it's an interesting time and within the space of meetings and events because again, you look at right now. No, we can't have the in-person experience. So what are people doing? The virtual option is the only option at this point. And so organizations are also realizing that they don't have that insight, that knowledge, that experience level.
Right.
And are trying to almost temporarily place virtual in the space of their in-person experiences, but not thinking strategically and ensuring that it's a part of their experiences moving forward.
Right. A great final question, and then we've reached the end of our time. So finish your glass of wine or your sandwich because you're not done with us. And that's really, you know, what are we seeing in the giving space for organizations that may be going to virtual, and how does that work? How do you keep the excitement level going? And it's all about vision and mission, in my view. It's all about continuing to deliver and demonstrating how you're delivering on your vision and on your mission and telling those stories, because ultimately that's what I'm going to align with. That's where I'm going to want to give my money, is because I've already am attracted to you. And if you're continuing to show me how you're delivering on your vision and mission and impacting the lives of people that I'm wanting to impact, that's how I'm going to say, you're still doing it. You've got it. You're having that kind of impact to make that kind of change. So it's really now about demonstrating that. Is it all going to be easy? No, it's not. And some great examples here. How do big brothers, big sisters, and those kind of places make this change? Each organization has to sit down and figure that out, and they may need some help doing that. But that's where there's opportunity in all of this. I'm firmly convinced of that.
Yeah, and I like the idea of reimagining experiences. Again, looking outside of the way that things have been done, and challenge yourself, challenge your teams to expand and try things in new ways. Looking at this virtual world as an opportunity to not just engage people to come to webinars, but to actually engage in activities, to physically get up and move, to network, to create. There's so many opportunities within the space, and I think it's important for us to realize that right now, our industries are all dying because of this this global pandemic that's been attacked us as a civilization. And what it's shown us, and again magnified, is the fact that we as communities need to look at other options, other ways to facilitate education, to facilitate networking and connection. And so even you're laughing over there. What is
I
that?
think, as the audience can tell, you and I could do this for the rest of the afternoon. We can keep going because we are passionate about this, and we're passionate about the opportunity that this represents for our clients and for all organizations to better deliver actually on their own visions and missions. And this becomes a tool to accomplish that much better. So that's where I think the excitement and the opportunity lie, and we would be delighted to further that discussion. And I think that's what the QR code is on Derrick's. Just put your phone up to there and grab that, and you've got a way to stay connected with us. But we'll be back. I think our next webinar is in the next 2 weeks, or 2 weeks from now. And we look forward to continuing the dialogue on other aspects of what's changed in our professional association management space. But Derrick, thanks for your energy this afternoon. And
thank you, Greg.
Thank you to our audience for being with us and being engaged. And have a great rest of the afternoon.
Take care, everyone.